Hi everybody, it's Julie. I just wanted to make a new video. I haven't made one in a while. This is going to be how to make a pair of baby wool pants or longies out of an adult sweater. So here's my sweater. It's a women's sweater, size large, 100% lamb's wool, that I have felted so that it's prepped for sewing. So what I'm going to do first, this is a little bit hard to see because it's all gray, but this is the arm seam of the sweater. And I'm going to cut along the arm seam so that I have just the sweater arm. I'm going to cut all the way up, and I'm going to leave the neckline intact in case I want to use it for another project. Okay, so now I have one arm sleeve separated from the sweater. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side here. You can see this. These are so simple to make, and they make really nice warm pants. And if you lanolize them, putting lanolin on them, it makes them waterproof so you can use with a fitted cloth diaper. See? So the other sleeve. So now I have two sweater sleeves here, and you can see how they're going to look as little pants. The cuffs will be at the ankles and the top will be the waistband. So to make sure I have the size correct, what I'm going to do is use a pair of pajama pants that are at 18-month size. These are just cotton pajama pants that fit my son. So first I'm going to take and turn one leg inside out. So now I have one leg inside out, one leg right side out, right? I'm going to take this leg that's right side out and tuck it into the other leg so you have right sides together, right? So you're going to see the wrong side out, and one pant leg will be inside of the other leg, okay? So I'll just fix the bottom cuffs so that they're the same. So you can see I have one inside the other. And then I'm going to come up here to the top and just fold them right in half so that the center seams are together in a U shape. So these are folded in half. And when I open the center seam up, you can see that it's a U shape or a V shape. So what I'm going to do is use this center seam as a guide for cutting my sweater sleeves. You can see the shape there. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing with the sweater sleeves. Take one sweater sleeve and turn it inside out. Okay, and put the other sweater sleeve inside of it so you have right sides together. So I'm taking this one is inside out, this one's right side in, and I'm going to slide one inside the other, okay? And I want to match up the seams. So in this case, we're matching up this seam here and the seam on the inside. So see, they're matched up. And straighten out the cuffs so that they match. And just make sure that the seam matches all the way up. So you want to kind of straighten everything out. Make sure that this seam in here is going to match up. So these will be toward the inside of the pant legs. Just make sure it's all flat inside. Okay, so I have one inside the other. You can see here. You can see at the top I have the 2 layers and 2 layers. So then I'm going to take my pants that I just folded inside out and set them on top of the sweater. So basically what I have here is matching up the sweater, or the pants, with the sweater. So the bottom cuff does not need to be finished, so you can just match it right up with the bottom of the pants. And then the top here is what we're going to be cutting. So we can see that the center seam is a little curved, and then the top is going to be straight across. So what I'll do is I'm going to cut the top first, and basically we don't have a whole lot of space to work with on this pair, but I'm just going to cut straight across, leaving as much as I can in the top. So right from the edge, where the seam is here, and I'm going to cut straight across. So I'll try and let's move that over there. Tuck the tag in here. Now this wool is kind of thick, so I'm just going to cut 2 layers at a time, and then the second 2 layers here. And I'm just eyeballing it, I'm not measuring anything. Okay, so it's good if you have a little bit of space beyond the top of the pant, because what we're going to do is fold this over and make a casing for elastic. Have an elastic top. Okay? If this were a lighter color, I could trace the center seam here and then just cut it out, but because it's a darker color sweater, I'm just going to cut it right along this seam, just to mirror it. And like I said, this is pretty thick, so I'm going to cut 2 layers at a time. And again, I'm not being really exact here. I'm just sort of cutting along this seam. So now this mirrors the shape of the pants that I'm using as a guide. And you can do this with all sizes of pants. I've made pants from newborn all the way up to like a 24-month pant size. You just need a bigger sweater so you have longer arms, longer sleeves to work with. So now we have this sleeve inside a sleeve, and this is going to become our baby pants or longies. Okay, so the lighting's a little better over here. You can kind of see better the sleeve of the sweater. And now this this, we're looking at the wrong side. You can see the seam here that's inside the sleeve of the sweater. So the seam that we're going to sew right now is going to be this U-shaped center seam, okay? So you should be serging or sewing together 2 layers of wool all along this seam. So I will show you that now. I'm going to be using my serger to do this. So basically I have the foot up. I'll turn it on here. And I'm not using the knife. The knife is down. So I'll just get these seams lined up, these 2 raw edges lined up to make the center seam. And I'll just serge right along the edge here, kind of making sure this is lined up as we go. And I don't use any pins because I don't want to serge over my pins by accident. So when I get to this place where we have the 2 seams, it's going to be a little thicker, so I just want to kind of keep everything as flat as possible. Just straightening out this seam as I go so it catches in the serged edge. When you're serging, don't be afraid to go slow and take breaks. It can be a stop and go type of thing. Okay. So now I have my seam all serged up. You can see here. And I have the tails here. What I'm going to do with the tails is just weave them in. I'm not sure how other people deal with their tails, but I weave them in. So I use a darning needle or a yarn needle, whatever I have handy. And basically I take the thread, the tail, pinch it in half so I can more easily thread the needle and pull it through here. And then I take the seam and just go back through the seam and come out, I don't know, 1.5 inches later and pull the seam through. Sometimes it takes a little coaxing to let it go through. Okay? And then cut the tail off close to where it comes out. That's how I finish off my serged tails. So you can see here, it's nice and neat. And I'm going to do the other side, and then I'll show you the next step. So we have this all serged up, and that's basically the main seam that you need to sew. Now there's a couple of different options of how to do the waistband. What I'm going to do is fold it over, make an elastic ring or loop, and then fold the fabric over it and just sew down with my sewing machine. So what I'm going to do here is undo what we just did. So take this inside leg out, and you can see the shape of the pants. So it's as easy as that to make the pants. And then we're just going to have to deal with the top here. You can also make a waistband out of wool, just making sure that this stretchiness, the stretch of the wool, is this way, you know, with the waistband rather than across the waistband. But what I'm going to do is basically just fold this over and put elastic in the casing. We're going back to the pair of pants that I started with as a measure, and we're going to do the same, undo what we had done before so that we can measure the waistband here. So basically I'm going to use the waistband that's here as a guide. I have a spool of elastic. So I'm going to just, at the unstretched spot, I'm going to measure along unstretched elastic and just double it. Okay. And then add about an inch for overlap so that we have enough to overlap. So that should be good, since we based that on these pants. That should be good. So now we're going to make this elastic into a loop. We're going to overlap the ends and zigzag to just attach them together. I've done this a variety of ways, and this is the most reliable way that I've found. So I'm just going to zigzag back and forth a couple of times to secure it. My machine doesn't like doing this very much, but there it is. So it's just kind of a messy zigzag. But when we pull on it, I mean, it's pretty secure. So this is going to be totally hidden. It doesn't have to be the prettiest attachment you ever. So this is what we've got for. Now I'm going to put the loop of elastic with no twists in it around the waist of the pants. Okay? Then I'm going to just fold over the top about an inch or so, because this is 3/8 elastic, and I'm going to pin. I like to pin because that way you get a more consistent casing around, or at least I get a more consistent casing around my elastic. So I'm just working my way around, just folding over the wool at the waist and pinning. And see, there's the elastic, and I'm just folding over about an inch, just making sure that it's a consistent width all the way around. Alright, so I have the waist all pinned, and I'm just going to use a straight stitch to secure, so I'll show you that next. Alright, I have my sewing machine set up for a straight stitch, and I've just slid this underneath the presser foot. I haven't put it down yet, and I'm just using the guide. It's hard to see here, but there's guides on my machine, and I'm just using the guide to keep a consistent distance from the waist of the pants. And I always back tack to make sure that the stitches don't come out. So I'm going to go forward a few stitches and back tack. One more for good measure. And you may have to help the thick seams, the double seams, through your machine. Also, you'd probably want to remove the pins before you get to them. I'm sometimes lazy and sew right over them, but that's not very good for your machine. And you just want to make sure that you're not hitting the elastic. You want it all the way up against the top of the the casing here, all the way up against the top. And if it starts to get off a little, you can always keep the needle down and raise the presser foot and readjust the fabric under the presser foot. Like I have to do here. See, it's getting pushed out. So I'm just going to readjust with the needle down. Just fix this pin here. Remove your pins before you run them over. It's a good practice. We're just going to go all the way around, making sure not to catch the elastic. You want the elastic to be free floating inside the casing. Just about back at the beginning. So I'm going to meet up with my original starting point and back tack. Okay, so I will trim up my tails here. Both sides. And just make sure that you've caught the fabric all the way around so you have a continuous casing. And because I'm not too careful, the amount of fabric varies a little bit. You won't be able to notice. I won't be able to notice when it's on the baby. So that's how you make the casing. And here are the completed longies next to the pajama pants that we used as a pattern. So you can see they came out pretty much the same size. And these wool pants are going to be nice and warm this upcoming winter, which is going to be upon us pretty fast. So thanks for watching, and feel free to leave me any comments if you have any questions. Thanks!